Did I used to have an intro? I don't even remember. Was starting videos always this difficult? I'm sure it wasn't. Oh my God. For a while I sort of thought I couldn't come back to YouTube until I had like some big grand like comeback video, you know? But this ain't that. Anyway, we're just jumping in. I don't even know what this is. I've been sort of wanting to make a video for a little while. I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I didn't know what I want this channel to be, and I sort of forgot how to use my camera. And then some exciting stuff happened, and then some sad stuff happened. You know how it is. So I just thought today I'm home alone for the first time in a long time. And I thought I'd pop the camera on and hope that I'm recording this properly and say hello. So I guess the first most obvious thing is that I'm in a different space. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know why that is, but I know a lot of you don't. So let me fill you in. Basically, Blair and I, my partner and I, bought an apartment in March. Buying our own place is something we'd spoken about for years, honestly, but it was something neither of us were really sure we would ever be able to do. And then last year we really started looking, and then in March we signed the contracts, we signed the next 30 years of our lives away, and now we have a home. We actually got the keys on the 29th of March, which was an exciting, terrifying day. We didn't move in for the first couple of weeks because we wanted to get the floors redone, and then Blair and I were in here for like 7 nights before Mum and I had to go off to Bateman's Bay in New South Wales to visit my grandparents who aren't very well. That was supposed to be a 2-week trip. It turned into a bit longer than that. We ended up having to stay 3 weeks. So it's been almost 2 months since we bought the place, but it still feels very, very new to me. And we're definitely still settling in. So I have this beautiful room, which has the best lighting in the house, and I'm thrilled. And also I will show you these at some point. They're just IKEA shelves, but they take up the whole wall and I adore them. I'm still working at the bookshop, the TS bookshop in Melbourne, although we've actually just moved as well. It's been a year of a lot of moving for me. The shop and the society were in Russell Street in Melbourne since the 70s. So it's been a pretty big deal, a big move for us. We're now in Flinders Lane in a beautiful new shop. We love it. And I still really like my job. I love being a bookseller, and everybody I work with is just really nice. I love it. Also, I know because it will be important to those of you to whom it matters most, to hear me say that I am very supportive of the struggle for freedom for Palestine and for Palestinians. I've spoken about it a couple of times on my channel, not like as an informative or educational sort of thing, but just talking about my support of Palestine. But just for those of you who haven't heard me talk about it before, and who I know to some of you it will be important to hear me say, I know that anti-Semitism towards Jewish people is still a really serious, dangerous problem in our world today. But that does not mean that colonialism, settler colonialism, occupation, dispossession, and genocide is ever acceptable. So to my Palestinian viewers, or the people of Palestinian heritage who have had to flee at some point, and I know there's many of you. I know that this video isn't going to achieve a whole lot, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm with you. But that is my 2 cents on that. How about for now, we have a bit of a chat about some of the stuff I've been loving this year. Do a mini spontaneous favorites segment. Yes, let's do that. Before I forget, I'll tell you about my favorite audiobook of the year. I did get this through Libro FM and their ALC program before it was released. It is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. We know I'm a John Green stan. I love the Green brothers, I'm not gonna lie. And I know it's sort of like not cool to like John anymore in his books, but I think this is really good. I did listen to the Anthropocene Reviewed podcast when he first started it. I haven't kept up with it so much more recently because I'm just terrible at keeping up with podcasts in general. I just thought it was beautiful. This is John Green's first non-fiction work, and I think he nailed it. And my other favorite non-fiction of the year was Saturday Portraits by Maxine Beneba Clarke. A couple of years ago, she started writing portraits for the Saturday paper here in Australia, which was essentially like 1,000-word essays on people, mostly famous people. But because she's a creative writer, they're not, journalistic in the sense that you might normally expect, like a bio to be. A lot of these will be more familiar to Australian viewers, like Jack Charles, Tony Abbott. That was a great essay. But she also wrote about a lot of other things and a lot of other people. She has one on Roxane Gay, Barack Obama, Julian Assange, John Saffron, Black Black Lives Matter. There's just a lot in here, and I loved her writing. And I also really enjoyed the introduction and the conclusion, sort of explaining her journey and her experience of this whole thing. She was just really reflective and insightful, and I love her writing. I loved these. They were great. Then a couple of my other favorite books of the year, but not like my top favorites that I'll just tell you about very briefly, was Kim Jong-young Born, 1982. Lightfall, book 1 by Tim Probert, and it's a graphic novel, and it's just beautiful. I'd never heard of it before, but I'm now obsessed and desperately waiting for book number 2. And the most recent book that I finished is Billy Yaradungalungdarai by Anita Heiss. Anita Heiss is a really well-known Wiradjuri author here in Australia. She's written a lot of books, I think. I've just never read any of them, but this one is her big sort of current book that she released this month, and it was really good. This translates to River of Dreams, and it's a historical fiction set in Gundagai and Wagga Wagga. The first half, even more, of this book was just incredible. It was like borderline perfection in my view. It starts out in Gundagai and the flood of the Murrumbidgee River in 1852, I think it was, and sort of the fallout from that. It then goes on to cover some really interesting topics. Obviously, we talk about settler colonialism and the impacts there on the Aboriginal people in the area, but we also get a really interesting viewpoint of white saviorism, but it's also a really beautiful love story. I don't know, she just managed to do a lot with this book. Now, my 2 favorite books of the year so far, I don't know how to pick between them. I think I read this one first, so let's talk about There Is No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Tsumura. So this is a translated work, and I loved it. It's so good. It's basically about a woman in her mid-30s, I think it is, who has a career but then burns out. And so then after she sort of recovers from that, she decides she only wants to do really easy jobs. A lot of Japanese books that I've read do comment on the pressures of society and expectations and of conforming and of work pressures and all that sort of stuff. And so it sort of follows that, but it's also just kind of a little bit funny and really charming and ultimately quite hopeful. I don't know, I found this really life affirming. I just adored it. I absolutely loved every second of this. I think I read it in a day, and like, it's not a short book. It's not a crazy long book, but it's not short. And then the other book that I just adore is Friends in Dark Shapes by Kavita Bedford. And this is an Australian debut, but it seems to be getting a bit of traction overseas. It's got a different cover, the international cover. And I think she even got a review written up in the New York Times. Like, it's pretty exciting. And I can see why. Like, I love this book. It's sort of read almost like a coming of age novel, but it's a woman like turning 30, although I suppose us millennials just took a little while to grow up. So it sort of has that feeling to it of like a young person becoming an adult through adversity or changes. And it's written in really short vignettes, so it's so quick to get through. And they're just so atmospheric and beautiful. And it's also about the relationship she has with her father. It reads like it's not a debut. The sort of command she has over what she's doing with the narrative and with those vignettes. I don't know, I just always felt like I was in such safe hands. And it was just beautiful. I loved it. It's definitely, these 2 are my big 2 favorites of the year. Love them. And pink books. I don't know what it is. Millennial pink. Am I that stereotypical? And then, as per the trend of the last probably 2 years now, I haven't been using tarot decks much, but I have been obsessed with my saltwater reading cards. Will I ever shut up about this deck? Probably not. I took this deck with when Mum and I went to Bateman's Bay to see my grandparents. Mum and I, when we go away on trips together, I've spoken about this before, how I will often bring an oracle deck, and then each day we will draw a card each and sort of take that as our message for the day. And I don't want to talk about it too much, but the trip to Bateman's Bay was a really, really difficult one for both of us. Dealing with elderly people, end of life stuff for people that you love, and other kind of challenging family dynamics and all of that. It was a really, really difficult 3 weeks. I still am not sure that either of us are completely over it. And it hasn't ended either, I know I'm being very, very vague and annoying, but I hope you sort of understand not what is happening in my family, but why this deck was so impactful and helpful for both of us. I'm careful to use words like this, but I think it was traumatic to a certain extent for both of us. So just getting through that in a way that we could help the people that we love in a way that was still healthy for us and safe for us. This deck, I couldn't have asked for a better companion. So I'm always blown away by this deck. Every single time I try to explain like how important this deck is to me and how powerful I think it is and how special I think it is. And every time I just feel like I don't quite do it justice. It made the whole situation just that little bit easier for us to handle and to cope and to process. So I'm just like so grateful to this deck and to Laura. I've been like raving about her decks ever since I started this channel, basically. And I will never ever stop. There are a couple of other books that have been like 4.5 stars that I'd love to talk about, but I feel like that is enough books for this video. And that gives you an idea of what I've been reading and loving, I suppose. As for other stuff, briefly, let's go a brief rundown. BTS Butter, I love it. I haven't loved a comeback as much as I've loved this since probably Idol. I'm obsessed. I love it. I love it. So good. I can't wait to learn the dance. Eurovision. Switzerland was my favorite. I adored it. Malta, Ukraine was sort of tied for second. I kept flipping back between the two. And now I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about whatever this is, this YouTube, me on YouTube thing. I'm not really sure. I don't have concrete answers for you. I'm sorry. I don't have like a schedule that I can let you know, like 3 videos a week. Not any of that. So I don't really know what it is I want to do long term on YouTube. I just know that I like making videos. I know I started another channel and that was a good time for a little while. But I think right now where I'm at, I don't feel like I have enough of a vision to like come back and be like, this is what this channel's for. This is what this channel's for. I'm ready to make a certain number of videos for each. That just feels like a lot of thinking to do. I do feel like that channel was good because it sort of got, I really just wanted to make reading vlogs like all the time. And I feel like it got that out of my system. Equally, as we know, I don't use tarot or study tarot in the same way that I used to, that I feel like would justify multiple videos a week or even a month of like solid tarot content. So I think right now I just sort of have to give myself permission to make whatever I want, whenever I want. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not really sure if this is going to be like a regular thing. I don't think it's going to be particularly consistent, at least not at the moment. And I don't think it's going to be really consistent in, you know, like a particular topic or subject for videos. And I suppose, seeing as this is like a new era, maybe, and Katie Flowers, I'd love to hear what you'd like to see from me, because I have a few ideas, but I don't know. Just, I think it would be nice if there's, you know, things other than tarot reviews or, you know, my top 10 favorite tarot decks or stuff that's a bit like, do you want another bookshelf tour? Because my bookshelf's a bit different now, or do we not need another one soon? And I suppose one more thing I'd like to mention is just for those of you who have been saying that you don't feel educated on the topic of Palestine, which is fair enough, you don't have to be an expert on everything. I do hope though that now that you know that you're not educated on an important subject, you take the time to become a little bit more educated. I just wanted to recommend a book that was recommended to me by someone in our community, Sonia, thank you. It is This Is Not a Border. Reportage and reflection from the Palestinian Festival of Literature. This is a beautiful book. Look at it. I love it. I read this last year. It was one of my favorite books of last year. I spoke about it a few times. And Sonia recommended this to me because I loved We Crossed the Bridge and It Trembled, which was different people's perspectives on the war and the situation in Syria. And this is sort of done in a similar sort of way, in the sense that it's a lot of different people who have been to Palestine for the literature festival, talking about their experience there and what they saw there. And there's some, you know, sort of essays, there's more like poetry, there's a beautiful mix of styles and just different voices. And they talk about, you know, the reality that they witnessed there. And it's just beautifully done. And it's really, really easy to read. I read this really quite quickly once I got into it. So it's not like some heavy history lesson, you know, but it does give you a good sense of the impact right now, or, you know, when this was written, which I think, you know, applies to now. So pick up this book, or something else, but this one was a great one. I loved it. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you all so much for sticking around and being patient and waiting for me and understanding. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I know I've been awkward as fuck in this video, but sitting in front of a camera is something I haven't done in a long time, and it's weird, but that's enough. Okay,